Welcome to lesson 3. If you've made it past the first couple weeks, you're in that good rhythm. The semester is going. I've got no cool drone video for you this week, so we're going to jump right into it. This week we're going to be working on decimals, and there's a couple great videos out there just like before. Watch those, do the weekly work on those. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Another thing that I want to mention, back in GS 120, I believe you learned about SMART goals, and if you haven't, please let me know. But I want to make sure in those weekly reflections that you're doing that you're using that SMART goal mentality, right? So making it specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So I'll be looking for that as I grade the weekly reflections, making sure that you're setting a SMART goal. It's great to just have kind of a generic goal, but try and put something specific, especially trying to make it time-bound, like even if it's as simple as, this week I'm going to try and finish everything by Friday, right? That's a SMART goal. It's specific. You can measure that. You can know if you're done by, gauge whether you're Friday or not. It is achievable. If you put the time in, it's relevant, and it's time-bound. So be making sure that in those weekly reflections you are setting SMART goals. Alright, the next thing I want to talk about is your project for the week. This week you're going to be working on tracking your budget and expenses. Last week you set up a budget, but that was a future budget, right? Like 5 years down the road. This assignment we're going to be focusing on currently, right? So if you already have a budget, great, use that. If you don't have a budget currently, you'll need to make a budget. Then you'll need to start tracking your expenses. So this can be you can track it daily. How much did you spend on gas today? How much did you spend on food? If you pay any bills this week, right? Did you pay electricity? Did you pay gas? Did you make a car payment, a mortgage payment, right? Anything, you want to start tracking your expenses. And while for this assignment, it's going to just be this week, right? So maybe there's not a whole lot going on this week, but we're going to continue this for an entire month. So this is kind of step 1 of the project during week 3. You're going to continue to do this, even though you're not going to report on it every week. And then on week 7, you're going to submit a very similar assignment, but showing that you have tracked expenses for an entire month. So what you set up right now, think about it, how you want it to be for a whole month. So as far as grading this, I want to show the rubric here, because this really, if you're like, oh, what do I need to have on here? What don't I need to have on here? I grade against the rubric. With Math 100G pathway, I don't know how many there are, like 150 Math 100G instructors out there. I just teach one section. We want to try and keep it fair, right? So when you're at the gathering and with your other peers, right, you kind of get graded fairly. So what I do to do that is I really stick to grading against the rubric. So if you go to the assignment at the bottom, you'll see the rubric. I'll pull it up right here so I can kind of walk through it. But 9 points is going to be for tracking expenses. 5 points for it being on an electronic spreadsheet. Part of this class is learning electronic spreadsheets, so please don't just track it, on paper and take a picture and send that in, right? I want you using some sort of electronic spreadsheet. 6 points for having a budget on there, right? So if you just send me a spreadsheet with your expenses for the week, but I don't see a budget against those expenses, you're not going to get those 6 points. Organization, right? I should be able to. This one is pretty loose. It's only worth 2 points. Honestly, as long as you don't, as long as there's some like headings and some categories or something like that, I'm going to give you the 2 points there. And then, hey, you get 3 points for submitting the assignment with an attached file. So make sure you do that. Easy 3 points right there. So that's how I'm going to grade this. Let me pull up an example. Again, this is an example. I'm not saying you have to copy this one. This is just one that my wife and I have used, and we really like it. So let me pull that up for you. Okay, so this is what it looks like. Now you'll notice the dates are pretty old. This is a blank one I've been using for this class for a while. Well, May 2017, a couple years almost. So anyways, this is kind of how we break it down, right? We have over in our left-hand side, we have every day of the month. And then in the income column, right, so I can track when I get paid. And then we've got tithing. I know that's not really considered a bill, but it's important. It needs to be in there. It's part of your budget, right? You're using your money to to pay that, so you want to make sure you include that. And then these are our categories. These, again, you don't have to use these categories, but if it's similar, that's great. Go ahead and use it. We've got our mortgage payment, utilities, loans, and variables. So things like gas in the car, eating out, groceries, savings, other things, right? And then what I've done here, these kind of highlighted colors, if you would, I highlight those on their due dates. So I probably need to put my mortgage one over there, but anyway, so that way I kind of know when I need to pay those by. So again, this is just an example. Then every day, as we spend money, we track it on here. It sums it all up at the bottom. We put in our budgets right here. So then what at the bottom here, it shows how much I've actually spent compared to my budget. Now these over here, kind of the hard fixed payments and stuff, those don't really change month to month, right? But the big one is these variables, the groceries, the eating out, the gas in the car. Those are the big ones that we really watch as we spend money. So again, this is just an example. There's lots of different ways you can do it. If you're already doing a spreadsheet and you track your expenses, great. You can use that. I do ask that you don't go to the internet though and download some pre-made template. Really make it your own. It doesn't need to be anything fancy. Don't feel like you have to have some glamorous, fancy looking thing. It can be real bare bones. That's totally fine. The idea of this activity is to get you, if you're not already doing this, get you in that habit of budgeting, tracking your expenses. One thing I do want to mention about the budget and expenses is confidentiality. Kind of a funny story. My mom actually took Pathways about 2 or 3 years ago, and when she was doing this class, she called me up and said, "Hey, do I actually have to report my real income and expenses? I don't know if I feel comfortable sharing that with basically a stranger, right? I mean, you guys have only known me through these videos through the class." And I said, "Well, you don't have to," and that goes, to say that I have no idea what you post, if that's your true expenses and your income or not. So it's totally up to you what you want to report. If you do not feel comfortable actually reporting your real income and budget and that's okay. You can kind of fudge the numbers. Again, I'm not going to know whether it's the actual or not. I'm not going to know those type of things. So the main purpose of this though is to benefit you. What helps you, and then just know that on my end it's fully confidential. I will be the only person that sees those. I look at the files, I grade against the rubric, and then I close the file, and that's it. So I know sometimes when you get sharing financial information, it makes some people a little uncomfortable. So I just want to rest assured that this isn't going to go anywhere. It stays within iLearn, fully confidential. Nobody can access it but myself, and I'm not going to do anything with it. So just wanted to reassure you that. Alright, and just 2 more things. I promise, just 2 more things. I gotta try and keep these things a little bit shorter, so that way you guys watch the whole things, hopefully. But the last 2 things I want to talk about. The first one is phone calls. Just kind of a heads up, I guess. I do screen my phone calls. The reason why is nowadays, even on your cell phones, you just get tons and tons of telemarketers or junk calls where you answer and nobody's there. But then I teach these classes and I feel bad because I'm like, oh, what if that's a student, right? So I do screen my phone calls. So if you're trying to get a hold of me and I don't answer, it might be because I screened it, because I just don't know. Is this a student? Is this a telemarketer? So please, please, please leave a voicemail if you are trying to get a hold of me, and then I will call you back. Or if I can't call you back, if I don't get to it till later, I'll email you something, let you know that I got your message. Or if before you call me, shoot me a text, so that way I kind of know that a call's coming, and then I know it's legit. So I just want to say that. And then the next thing is the discussion boards. I know I've got a few emails about this. I don't know what's going on with those things. I cannot seem to make that tab stay there. It's like its default is to be hidden, and I keep trying to unhide it, and then it keeps getting hidden. It's like every day it resets or something. Anyways, so I found another workaround. What we're going to do is scratch the discussion board thing. Where you can post questions about the week is going to now be under announcements. So let me show you that real quick. So if I'm on the home page here, right, this is what it looks like, and I have a question on lesson 2, right? So if I click on lesson, well, you see here, you can even hit reply right there. But if you click on lesson 2, you scroll down, you see my awesome video, which you're watching right now. And then here at the bottom, you'll notice it now says reply. So you can come in here and you can reply. And this is where I want you to go to ask those generic questions. So, you know, hey, where is the rubric? You know, some question that you have about the week's work. So scratch the discussion board thing. This is going to be the new thing. This should work. So if you have questions about, and then it kind of makes it nice because those questions will only be for that lesson. So if you have questions, please post them there if they're kind of the generic course questions. So I think with that, that's all. I promise. Okay, end the video. Have a great week. Let me know if you have any questions. Bye.